Hey there, family. Pull up a chair. Sit all the way down because, honey, we have got a full-blown explosion on our hands today. And if your name happens to be Stefon Diggs, I need you to sit down, pour yourself a tall glass of ice water, call your mother, call your agent, call whoever prays for you at night, and prepare your entire spirit. Because what just landed on the docket is the kind of receipt that ends careers, that ends endorsement deals, that ends carefully manicured public images, and that ends whatever little umbrella of goodwill Cardi B was still holding over Stefon Diggs' head. And yes, I said Cardi B, because, sweetheart, that umbrella is folded up, it is tucked into the closet, it is behind the winter coats, and it is not coming back out for Stefon Diggs. Not today, not next week, not this season, maybe not this lifetime. Now, before y'all rush to the comment section, before y'all sharpen up your keyboards, before y'all march in with the same old worn-out talking point about how this whole thing is some kind of shakedown, before y'all try to paint Stefon Diggs as the poor confused millionaire caught in the middle of a hurricane he didn't ask for, I need every single one of you to sit through this. Sit through every second. Because what Chris Griffin's legal team just placed in front of a judge under penalty of perjury is not a rumor. It is not a podcast clip. It is not a screenshot with the timestamp cropped out. It is sworn evidence. It is phone records. It is text messages. It is hotel receipts. It is flight bookings. It is surveillance footage. And honey, if even half of what has been submitted holds up under the eyes of a jury, Stefon Diggs is not walking out of that courtroom the same man he walked into it. Not by a long stretch. Let me lay this out for you slowly. Because what we are witnessing right now, in real time, is the slow-motion collapse of a defamation lawsuit that Stefon Diggs himself filed. Read that again. Stefon Diggs filed it. Nobody dragged Stefon Diggs to court. Nobody put a gun to his back. Nobody hijacked his career and forced him into a legal pad. Stefon Diggs walked into his lawyer's office, wrote a check, and said the words, "Sue this man for defamation." And now the very legal machine Stefon Diggs cranked into motion has boomeranged around and cracked him right across the jaw. Because the moment you file a defamation case, sugar, you swing open the door to discovery. And discovery, my sweethearts, is the courtroom version of somebody flipping the mattress and finding every single thing you thought was tucked away for good. Every text message, every voicemail, every flight itinerary, every hotel receipt, every phone log, all of it subject to subpoena. And what came tumbling out from underneath that mattress? Oh, honey. Oh, sugar. Oh, baby bae. Let me tell you. Because what came out of the discovery process against Stefon Diggs is going to be studied in law schools for the next 20 years. Chris Griffin, through his attorneys, has now filed a court document, notarized, sworn, officially entered, declaring he currently possesses over 100 pages of text messages, phone logs, and digital communications, some of them lifted directly from Stefon Diggs' own personal assistant, showing what his team is calling the operational choreography of the alleged assault. Not a single incident, not a lone flare-up, a coordinated, calendared, cross-country pattern with flight itineraries, hotel bookings, timestamp calls, and surveillance footage that lines up like the blocking chart for a Broadway musical. And the entire foundation of the defamation claim Stefon Diggs walked into court with was the theory that Chris Griffin was making it all up for clout, for attention, for a podcast run, for a fleeting brush with fame. But sweetheart, you cannot manufacture text messages sent from another person's phone. You cannot invent flight records booked under real names. You cannot fabricate surveillance footage pulled from an apartment building's own hard drive. And that, my friends, is exactly what just landed on the judge's desk in triplicate with exhibit tags stuck on every single page. Now hold on. Before I even walk you through what those documents allegedly say, let me set the table because some of y'all are new to this saga. Some of y'all just wandered in when Cardi B waddled onto the internet at 9 o'clock in the morning to defend a man she publicly claims she is not even with anymore. And yes, that alone is one of the strangest sentences I have ever had to say out loud in daylight. But here we are. So for the folks catching up in the back row, Stefon Diggs, for those living under a rock, is a professional football player. He was in Buffalo. Then he was in Houston. Then he was in New England, where the Patriots ate a $65 million contract just to get Stefon Diggs off the roster, which should tell you something about the internal mood in that building. And now, this week, Stefon Diggs has been picked up by the Washington Commanders on a one-year deal reportedly worth up to $12 million. $12 million. Congratulations, sir. Your child support recipients are throwing a small quiet party in their living rooms as we speak. Chris Griffin is allegedly on that party's guest list, along with a full row of attorneys, process servers, and half the Maryland court system. But here is where the story takes a turn. And here is where I need y'all to strap in. Because I am not being dramatic when I say Stefon Diggs may have just handed a jury the loudest microphone in America to broadcast his own destruction. Stefon Diggs filed the defamation action. And the one thing you absolutely cannot afford to do when you file a defamation lawsuit is have anything true in the accusations you are trying to bury. Because truth, my friends, is an absolute defense in defamation law. If Chris Griffin can prove, not just narrate, not just insinuate, but prove that what he said about Stefon Diggs is true, the entire defamation case collapses right there on the courtroom carpet, and the man who filed it walks out with a legal invoice long enough to need its own zip code. And now Chris Griffin has receipts. Layered receipts. Documented receipts. The kind of receipts that make defense attorneys lean over and whisper into their client's ear, "Sir, we need to settle yesterday, tonight, before this hits the news cycle one more time." Do y'all remember the old O.J. Simpson memorabilia case? Stay with me. O.J. Simpson, after walking out of that criminal trial everybody talks about, strolled into a Las Vegas hotel room with a group of associates to collect sports memorabilia he claimed was his. Instead of dialing the police, he ran his own recovery operation. Guns in the room. Threats exchanged. And the man who beat a double murder rap spent 9 years behind bars because he decided the legal system moved too slow. 9 years. For memorabilia. Now why am I telling you that story? Because according to Chris Griffin, and this is straight from the court filings, Stefon Diggs allegedly decided that the correct response to a stylist supposedly stealing items was to organize a personal enforcement squad, dispatch that squad across state lines, book the flights, book the hotels, and orchestrate a beating so brutal that when the video eventually leaked, grown adults closed their laptops and stepped outside just to breathe. Kicked in the face. Stomped on the floor. Boot stamped in the hallway of an apartment building. And in a detail I still cannot get past, one of the alleged attackers paused, mid-attack, to take a phone call. A phone call from whom? Well, Chris Griffin says the phone logs will answer that question under oath, with exhibit stickers slapped on every page, in front of 12 strangers who will decide the direction of a career. Baby, this is not looking good for Stefon Diggs. Let me walk you through what the court documents allegedly say, because I need every viewer to grasp the scale of what Chris Griffin has assembled. According to the filings, the evidence includes text messages between Stefon Diggs and his personal assistant coordinating logistical arrangements. Flights, hotels, timing windows, coordination for a man later identified as one of the assailants. It includes phone records showing calls placed to that same alleged assailant during the very minute surveillance footage captured the attack unfolding. It includes documentation that a man sharing Stefon Diggs's exact middle and last name has already been charged and convicted in the state of California for the brutal assault against Chris Griffin. Read that last sentence again, sugar. A man sharing Stefon Diggs's exact middle name and last name. Already convicted in California for this specific assault. That is not a rumor. That is not a headline manufactured over a weekend. That is a matter of public record you could pull up right now if you had 5 minutes and a curious spirit. And the filings include a detail so bizarre it almost sounds fabricated, except for the fact that it lines up neatly with the timeline. Chris Griffin says that on the very same day the first alleged incident took place, he received a custom-made diamond watch as a gift. A gift watch. On the day of an alleged assault. Now, honey, I am not a lawyer, and I am not a judge, but I have watched enough courtroom dramas to know that a diamond watch presented on the same date as an alleged robbery is the kind of detail a jury remembers when they walk into that deliberation room. That is the kind of detail that becomes the centerpiece of a closing argument. That is the kind of detail defense attorneys have nightmares about the night before trial. Stefon Diggs, I ask you sincerely, is this the defense you want to build your future on? Now y'all know I try to play devil's advocate. So let me steelman the Stefon Diggs side. His public position is that Chris Griffin stole from him hundreds of thousands of dollars in items, custom pieces, watches, chains, one drops that cost more than most people's yearly income. And when the theft was discovered, Stefon Diggs took what he calls appropriate action to recover it. Fine. Let us sit with that. Here is the problem with that version, even if we accept the whole thing. If Chris Griffin allegedly stole hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of items, then Stefon Diggs, as an American citizen in a country with laws and phones and working police departments, had exactly one obvious, legal, low-risk path in front of him. File a police report. Press charges. Hand over the receipts. Let the criminal justice system do what the criminal justice system does. That did not happen. There is no police report. There is no criminal theft charge against Chris Griffin. There is no prosecutor stepping to a podium about stolen jewelry. There is no arrest warrant sitting in a database. There is no complaint on any court docket in any American jurisdiction. Instead, allegedly, there is a hallway stomping, a leaked video, an Uber ride carrying a naked and humiliated man across town, and a defamation lawsuit filed years later to try to seize control of the story. Sugar, do you own a calendar and a phone? Because if you do, and if a theft genuinely happened, the correct move was to dial 3 digits. Not to allegedly gather a rotating cast of relatives and friends, book their travel, and dispatch them across state lines to administer street-level enforcement. And this is where the noose tightens. Because Chris Griffin is now asking the court for permission to add a brand new claim of defamation against the original plaintiff. That is right. The man who filed the original defamation lawsuit is now allegedly the target of a counter-defamation claim, built on a social media post in which Stefon Diggs wrote, and I am quoting the filings here, that this man is lying on his name because he got caught stealing, that this man is trying to act like a victim, that the lying is crazy. The Chris Griffin legal team argues that statement is defamatory on its face, because according to their evidence, no theft ever occurred. No theft was ever reported. No theft was ever prosecuted. And no theft can be corroborated outside of Stefon Diggs' own word and the words of his own employees. Truth is a defense in defamation. Yes, but truth requires evidence. And right now, from what we can see in the public docket, Chris Griffin has arrived at the courthouse with a wheelbarrow full of it. Meanwhile, Stefon Diggs has arrived with a hashtag, a caption, and a very tired publicist. Now let me talk Cardi B. Because Cardi B's role in this saga is one of the strangest subplots in modern celebrity legal drama. Cardi B publicly claims she is estranged from Stefon Diggs. On record, on video, on social, she has said the relationship is nowhere near what it used to be. Adults grow apart. And yet, when the story about the Chris Griffin counterclaims started to build momentum, Cardi B woke up at 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 in the morning. Family. And if you know anything about Cardi B, you know she does not do 9 in the morning unless the building is literally on fire. She logged onto her platform. She delivered an impassioned defense of Stefon Diggs that felt so measured, so scripted, so uncharacteristically composed that the entire internet paused and asked out loud, why is she reading from cue cards? And Chris Griffin, who I have to admit has been running an absolute masterclass in public relations warfare, did the one thing nobody thought was possible. He silenced Cardi B. Not silenced her career. Not silenced her music. Silenced her on this specific topic. She stopped posting. She stopped defending Stefon Diggs. She reportedly reached out to TMZ to try to get certain stories softened. TMZ, in classic TMZ fashion, said, "We appreciate the call, but the story stays." And Cardi B, being able to read a room the way only Cardi B can, pivoted. She dropped a single that is climbing the charts. She starred in an Old Navy campaign that has the internet talking about denim again. And she has, in what I can only describe as a masterful act of self-preservation, decided to have herself a European summer far away from the fallout around Stefon Diggs. As she should. Honestly, as she should. As every advisor in her orbit is undoubtedly telling her. Because here is what Cardi B, who has a full army of publicists and lawyers around her, figured out before Stefon Diggs did. This is not your regular messy Monday drama. This is not a he said, she said. This is not a story that can be spun and respun until nobody remembers what was real. This is a paper trail. This is a phone log. This is a surveillance tape. This is a jury waiting to be seated. And no volume of 9 in the morning defense videos is going to change what a judge is going to read at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Stefon Diggs, We need to have a serious conversation about your public relations strategy, because it is not just bad. It is actively worsening your legal position. Every social media post Stefon Diggs makes becomes potential evidence in an amended defamation claim. Every TMZ leak his team engineers becomes another data point in the Chris Griffin argument that Stefon Diggs is running a coordinated smear campaign. Every time Cardi B is sent into the arena on his behalf. And let me be crystal clear, I am not saying Stefon Diggs sent her. I am simply saying the timing was coincidental in a way that raised every eyebrow on the internet. Every one of those interventions has added weight to the amended complaint. You cannot sue a man for defamation while defaming him on your Instagram story and expect a judge to smile at you. That is not how this works. That has never been how this works. That will never be how this works. It is written in every defamation textbook on every law school shelf. And honey, the part that really lands sideways for me is the accusation Stefon Diggs keeps hurling back at Chris Griffin. That Chris Griffin is a publicity thirst trap, that he is a media chaser, that he is engineering his own narrative for clout. Sweetheart, sugar, sunshine, have you met yourself? Because the person who allegedly leaked video of a man being stomped, who allegedly stripped him down and stuffed him into an Uber, who allegedly organized a cross-country enforcement squad, who filed the very first defamation lawsuit trying to steer the story, who has his personal assistants going on record about who cooks in whose kitchen on a Tuesday night in Maryland. Stefon Diggs cannot call anybody else a publicity thirst trap while he is the wettest one in the room. He just cannot. The math does not math. And I have to hand it to Chris Griffin. Whatever his personal background may be, whatever the ultimate courtroom truth turns out to be, from a pure strategic perspective, he has outplayed, outnarrated, and outmaneuvered a professional athlete backed by an 8-figure public relations machine. He went on the No Jumper podcast. He went on Vlad TV. He was measured. He was specific. He named dates. He named locations. He named witnesses. He did not scream. He did not cry. He did not do the theatrical breakdown some accusers stage when they want the audience to feel sorry for them. He delivered his version calmly, sequentially, and with just enough detail that neutral observers said, "Hold on now. That adds up." And then he went right back into the court filings and started dropping receipts one at a time on a cadence so disciplined it looks like a marketing rollout. Text messages, then phone logs, then surveillance footage, then the conviction of the assailant sharing his exact middle and last name, then the diamond watch detail. Chris Griffin is dropping evidence the way an artist drops singles before an album. Measured, timed, engineered for maximum public impact. And what has Stefon Diggs done in response? Stefon Diggs has posted on social media. Stefon Diggs has allegedly coordinated media hits. Stefon Diggs has watched his baby's mother get pushed into the arena and then quietly retreat. Stefon Diggs has filed motions trying to shut down Discovery. And now, with Discovery no longer stoppable, Stefon Diggs is watching Chris Griffin convert the very defamation lawsuit Stefon Diggs himself launched into a full-blown reputational demolition. This is one of the great strategic self-destructions of the modern celebrity era. I say this with love, Stefon Diggs, and I say it because somebody in your orbit needs to. You played yourself. Genuinely. Categorically. Absolutely. Whoever advised you to file that defamation suit needs to have their bar card reviewed. Because that single decision has now cost you more than any amount Chris Griffin allegedly took. It has cost you the tail end of your Patriots contract. It has cost you your Cardi B umbrella. It has cost you your public sympathy. And if a jury ever gets to see the over 100 pages of receipts, it could very well cost you the $12 million Stefon Diggs just signed for in Washington. Because there is no world in which the National Football League sits quietly while a jury deliberates whether one of its wide receivers coordinated a cross-country assault on another human being. The league has a personal conduct policy for a reason. Let me pause and say this out loud. I am not a judge. I am not a jury. I am one woman with a camera, a court docket, and a subscription to every celebrity legal news feed on the internet. Stefon Diggs is entitled to his day in court. Stefon Diggs is entitled to the presumption of innocence. Stefon Diggs is entitled to mount a defense. But being entitled to a defense is not the same as having a defense. And from where I am sitting, watching this unfold in real time, the defense currently being mounted is being cannibalized by Stefon Diggs' own social media, his own PR strategy, his own inability to stop posting, and his team's apparent belief that Chris Griffin can be scared into silence with enough noise. Sweetheart, that man is not scared. That man is prepared. And notice the pattern. Because this is where the story stops being about one incident and starts being about behavior. In multiple recent situations involving Stefon Diggs, his defense has always been the same. They were trying to steal from me. That was the chef ma excuse. It is the Chris Griffin excuse now. Sometimes people do steal. Sometimes the accusation is real. I always leave that door open. But when the same defense repeats across plaintiffs, states, and years, a jury stops seeing incidents and starts seeing a pattern. And once a jury sees a pattern, no defense attorney alive can unsee it. Pattern evidence is the courtroom weapon nobody wants pointed at their client. Now let me spend a minute on the diamond watch, because this is the piece that lives in my head rent-free. Chris Griffin says that on the same evening the first incident allegedly took place, he received a custom diamond watch as a gift. Custom diamond watch. If Stefon Diggs truly believed his stylist was in the process of stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from him, why hand him a piece of custom jewelry on that exact night? Why? Where is the internal logic in that transaction? The Chris Griffin version says the watch was part of an attempted courtship, an advance, an offering placed on the table, a signal being sent. The opposing version has to walk into a courtroom and plausibly explain to 12 strangers why a man who claims he was being robbed handed his alleged robber a custom diamond watch on that very same night. And I am telling you right now that explanation does not exist in any universe I can imagine. There is no clean version of that story that lands with the defendant looking like the wrong party. There is no jury instruction elastic enough to stretch across that logical gap. Sugar, if this video ever finds its way to you, please take a seat with your legal team. Please. Chris Griffin's filings also allege, and I want to be careful here because these are allegations and not adjudicated facts, that the phone records will show a call placed by Stefon Diggs to an alleged assailant during the attack itself in that California hallway. Not before, not after, during. And when you sync those records with the surveillance footage, according to his team, the timeline will show one of the men delivering the beating pausing mid-attack to answer a call from the person allegedly directing the operation. If that timeline holds up, and again, I am not the judge and I am not the jury, I am just reading what is in front of me, that is the kind of evidence that can transform a civil case into something a district attorney starts sniffing around. That is the kind of evidence that starts moving files from civil court into the criminal division. And this is why Chris Griffin's legal strategy is, frankly, brilliant. He is not just fighting a defamation lawsuit. He is building a record that can eventually be handed to prosecutors, a record that can be handed to the National Football League's office, a record that can be handed to future civil claimants who read the news and recognize their own past dealings with the same defendant. He is not just defending himself. He is documenting a case that, if it holds together, has consequences far beyond one civil courtroom. Washington Commanders contract? Stefon Diggs, enjoy it while it is quiet. Because contracts are conditional. Morality clauses exist. And the league office reads court dockets more carefully than the average fan realizes. Now I already know what some of y'all are typing in the comments. You are always attacking Stefon Diggs. No, sugar. I am always attacking the pattern. There is a difference. And it is a difference worth understanding. If Chris Griffin were sitting across from me making up allegations with no evidence, I would say so on camera. If the court filings were empty, I would say so. If the phone records did not exist, I would say so. But we are past the he said, she said phase of this saga. We are in the discovery phase. We are in the documents phase. We are in the surveillance footage phase. And in this phase, feelings do not carry the weight they used to. In this phase, timestamps outweigh tone. Metadata outweighs mood. Receipts outweigh rhetoric. Let me also spend a moment on why Cardi B's decision to step back matters so much. Because in a strange way, I think it is the single most important development in this entire saga. Cardi B has been publicly and passionately woven into Stefon Diggs' life for years. They share a baby. They share a public history. Whatever their current relationship status is, and honestly, I am not sure even they know from one Tuesday to the next, Cardi B has been the most visible defender Stefon Diggs has had in the public arena for a long time. So the fact that Cardi B took one look at Chris Griffin's recent moves, one look at the discovery evidence timeline, One look at TMZ refusing to bend and quietly folded her umbrella and walked away. That tells you everything you need to know about how the professionals around this case are reading the tea leaves. Cardi B is not stupid. Cardi B has advisors. Cardi B has attorneys. And they clearly told her, in polite legal language, "Ma'am, stay out of this one. This one is not survivable in public." And when Cardi B, the queen of internet engagement, the woman who has never lost an online argument, elects to abstain from a battle involving the father of her own child, that is not neutrality. That is a signal. Now let me give Chris Griffin his flowers. Because from a strategic standpoint, Chris Griffin has conducted himself extraordinarily. He did not scream on social. He did not leak wild claims. He did not hire a publicist for a soap opera rollout. He filed. He recorded. He preserved. He waited for discovery. And when discovery arrived, he moved with surgical precision. Chris Griffin has executed the calmest, most methodical reputational counteroffensive I have watched in years. Study his playbook. And study the opposing playbook too, as a cautionary tale. Let me itemize this one more time, because I want y'all to be able to send this video to your cousin who still thinks Stefon Diggs is the victim in all of this. Here is the ledger, and I want you to read each line slowly. 1. Stefon Diggs filed the original defamation lawsuit, opening himself to discovery. 2. Discovery produced over 100 pages of text messages, phone logs, and communications now in Chris Griffin's possession. 3. Those documents allegedly show coordination of flights and hotels for individuals later identified as assailants. 4. Phone records allegedly show a call placed to an alleged assailant during the exact window of the assault. 5. A man sharing Stefon Diggs's middle and last name has already been charged and convicted for the assault. 6. On the same night as the initial incident, Chris Griffin allegedly received a custom diamond watch as a gift. 7. No police report and no criminal theft charge was ever filed against Chris Griffin over the alleged stealing. 8. Cardi B, after briefly defending Stefon Diggs, has withdrawn from the discourse entirely. 9. TMZ has declined to remove or soften coverage despite pressure. 10. Chris Griffin is now moving to add a counter-defamation claim based on Stefon Diggs's own social media posts. 10 items. 1 narrative. 1 direction. Nothing pointing back the other way. And let me say this plainly for anyone treating this like entertainment. It is not entertainment. There is a real human being on both sides. Chris Griffin has been in videos where he is visibly kicked in the face. That happened. The photos exist. The videos exist. A human being was on the floor of a hallway being brutalized while someone paused to answer a phone call. That is not a gossip line. That is a moment that deserves a reckoning. I refuse to let celebrity, fame, Cardi B, or TMZ distract from that basic human fact. A person got hurt on video. That should matter. Stefon Diggs, if you are watching, and I know these videos have a way of finding you, settle this case. Talk to your lawyers. Talk to your family. Talk to the handful of people around you who love you enough to tell you the truth instead of the truth you want to hear. This is not the kind of case you fight to the bitter end. This is the kind of case you exit with a check, a non-disclosure agreement, a carefully worded public statement, and a promise to move differently going forward. Because if this thing lands in front of a jury, and those 100+ pages of text messages get read out loud, and the surveillance footage gets played on the courtroom monitor, and the phone logs get projected on the big screen in front of 12 people who do not know you and do not owe you anything, you are not walking out of that courtroom the same man Stefon Diggs walked into it. Neither is your endorsement portfolio. Neither is your NFL career. Neither is your relationship with your own children when they grow up and eventually search your name. Chris Griffin has already told the court he wants a jury. He wants 12 strangers to sit in a room and hear every text message read out loud. He wants the surveillance video played on the courtroom screen. He wants the phone log projected on the wall. He wants the diamond watch entered as an exhibit and passed hand to hand around the jury box. He wants the assailant conviction referenced in opening statements. And Stefon Diggs, sugar, that is not a battle you win with a hashtag. That is not a battle you win with an Instagram caption. That is not a battle you win by sending your baby's mother to talk to TMZ at 9 in the morning. So where does this go from here? The amended complaint from Chris Griffin is pending judicial approval. If it is granted, and based on what is publicly readable, there is a strong likelihood it will be, the defamation counterclaim moves forward alongside the original claims. Discovery continues. More documents are produced. More phone records are subpoenaed. More witnesses are deposed. And every one of those steps produces new evidence that either supports the Chris Griffin version or undermines the Stefon Diggs version. There is no world in which Discovery stops producing bad news for Stefon Diggs, because the first batch already landed like a bomb. When the first shovelful comes up full of receipts, you do not dig deeper. You put the shovel down. Meanwhile, Stefon Diggs is going to be trying to play football for the Washington Commanders. He is going to be trying to justify a $12 million investment. He is going to be trying to catch passes on Sunday afternoons while his lawyers try to bail out the boat on Monday mornings. And the National Football League, which, as I remind you, has a personal conduct policy specifically designed to intervene in situations exactly like this, is going to be watching, reading, waiting, deciding. Roger Goodell has ended careers over less. Now here is what I want y'all to do. Drop a comment. Tell me, do you think Stefon Diggs settles before this ever sees a jury, or does he ride it all the way to trial? Do you think Cardi B stays out of it for good, or does she reappear with a statement once the pressure gets loud enough? And most importantly, do you think Chris Griffin gets his day in front of 12 jurors, or does the opposing camp engineer a settlement to keep those 100 pages of text messages sealed away forever? I want every hot take. I want every wild theory. I want to hear from the people who think I am wrong. And I want to hear from the folks who believe this thing is about to explode even bigger than I am predicting. Listen, this story is not over. Not by a stretch. There are more filings coming. There are more witnesses to be deposed. There is a jury pool waiting somewhere in a Maryland court district. There is a personal assistant whose text messages are now central to a federal-adjacent legal proceeding. There is a brother allegedly whose flight records are being subpoenaed as we speak. There is a middle and last name conviction sitting in a California courthouse for anyone who wants to walk in and pull the file. There is a diamond watch that somebody, at some point, is going to have to explain under oath. And there is a Washington Commanders locker room that just inherited one of the most complicated legal situations any franchise has taken on in a generation. I am going to be tracking every single development. I am going to be reading every filing. I am going to be watching every hearing. And when the next shoe drops, and sugar, another shoe is coming. They always come. They always come. I will be right back here breaking it down for you piece by piece, receipt by receipt, timeline by timeline. Stefon Diggs, you had a chance to walk away quietly. You had a chance to let Chris Griffin fade into the background. You had a chance to protect your career, your family, your legacy, and your bank account. Instead, you filed a defamation lawsuit. You opened yourself to discovery. You watched your personal assistant's text messages become public evidence. You watched Cardi B read the room and back away. And you watched a stylist you allegedly dismissed as nobody transform into the most formidable legal opponent of your life. You did all of that. You built this outcome brick by brick with your own hands. And to Chris Griffin, whatever the eventual outcome may be, you played this hand with a composure I rarely see on this side of a celebrity legal fight. And I want the record to reflect it. However this ends in court, the strategic playbook you have written will be studied for years to come. To my family watching, you know the routine by now. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications. Because when the next filing drops, and it will drop, I want you to be the first person in your group chat with the news. Drop your predictions in the comments section below. Send this video to the friend who still does not understand why this case matters. Send it to the cousin who is still out here trying to defend the indefensible. And keep asking the hardest question of them all. When the powerful are accused, does the system finally hold them accountable? Or does the money and the fame and the noise still win the day in the end? I do not know the answer. But we are about to find out in real time, in a courtroom, in front of 12 strangers who do not care about Super Bowl highlights, who do not care about a Cardi B connection, and who do not care about anything except what is written on those 100+ pages of text messages. I will talk to y'all real soon. Stay smart, stay skeptical, and stay tuned. Because this is not your regular messy Monday drama. This is the case that is about to reshape the entire conversation about accountability, power, and the receipts that finally catch up. Bye, sugar.